welcome to Midday Prime. Over the next 1 hour, we'll bring you all the stories and updates from India and the world. We will update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports, and we'll get you some interesting stories that are making headlines. Our top focus today would be on the United Nations high-level dialogue on desertification, land degradation and drought, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to virtually address today. Also, all updates on unlock and monsoon's progress and more in this edition of Midday Prime. I'm Untitled. First up, the big news at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver a keynote address virtually at the UN high-level dialogue on desertification, land degradation and drought this evening at the UN in New York. Big rift emerges in Lok Janshakti Party in Bihar. 5 of its 6 MPs write to the Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla to recognize them as a separate group. Elects Pashupati Kumar Paras as their leader. The 5 MPs to meet Om Birla today. Party President Chirag Paswan also meets Paras at his residence in Delhi. Monsoon gathers strength across India with IMD issuing orange alert for coastal Karnataka for 48 hours, yellow alert for Kerala, heavy rain slash several parts of UP, West Bengal and Rajasthan. Monsoon likely to reach Delhi in the next 24 to 48 hours. States continue to unlock in a phased manner. Odd-even system ends. Markets to reopen in Delhi from today. Restaurants to operate at 50% seating capacity. A graded unlock in Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka takes off. In international news, ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi's trial set to start in Myanmar. Junta rejects criticism by UN High Commissioner for Human Rights over its use of deadly force against protesters. Benjamin Netanyahu loses a 12-year hold on power in Israel after parliament votes in a new coalition government. Right-wing nationalist Naftali Bennett sworn in as the Prime Minister. PM Modi says he's looking forward to meeting PM Bennett and deepening the two countries' strategic partnership. And in sports, in French Open World #1, Novak Djokovic makes history with 19th Grand Slam title in epic final versus Stefanos Tsitsipas. He is just now one major away from equaling the all-time record of 20, jointly held by Federer and Nadal. And now let's begin the show with big news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will today deliver a keynote address virtually at the United Nations during the high-level dialogue on desertification, land degradation and drought. The permanent mission of India to the UN has said that the Prime Minister will be speaking at the opening segment in his capacity as the President of the 14th session of the Conference of Parties of United Nations Convention to combat desertification. President of the General Assembly, Deputy Secretary General, President of ECOSOC and Executive Secretary of the UNCCD will also speak on the occasion. The high-level dialogue will assess the progress made in the fight against desertification, land degradation and drought. It will also map the way forward in view of the end of the UN decade for deserts and the fight against desertification and the beginning of the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. This will include generating momentum and raising ambition for using land restoration as a key entry point. The discussions of the dialogue will highlight the importance of leveraging accelerated action on land-based solutions for climate and biodiversity. The high-level dialogue will see participation of several other heads of states and governments and ministers. And now correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us for more. Amrit, we know that over 2 billion hectares of land globally has been degraded, and that includes over 50% of the agricultural land, thus affecting 40% of the global population. Having said that, do you expect this particular event to focus on the problem at hand, review the progress made so far, and also set an ambitious agenda going forward? And is the Prime Minister likely to set India's example?
Well, the Prime Minister today is expected to make an impassioned pitch and a plea to all concerned stakeholders because at this meeting, which has been convened by the President of the 75th UN General Assembly, will have the heads of government and state, the UN Deputy Secretary General, the UN Under Secretary General, many ministers, government officials, UN officials, civil society representatives, corporate houses participating in it. So I think the Prime Minister would make an appeal to all stakeholders to come together in stopping or mitigating the land degradation. As you said, that about 50% of the agriculture land, livelihoods of about 40% of the world's population, which is entirely dependent upon these degraded lands, stands at the risk. And as the UN report indicates, that if degradation happens at the rate it happens by 2050, you could have 90% of the land degraded. So, the Prime Minister would give examples, cite examples of India, how it has made progress when it comes to goals of achieving, mitigating desertification and land degradation, mitigating afforestation or increasing the forest cover in India, or use the examples of the National Rural Livelihood Mission or the Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Guarantee Scheme for restoration of ecosystems, of restoration of building of ponds, plantation of trees, etc., at the rural level, and making it a more viable, economically viable option, a sustainable option of livelihood. So I think the Prime Minister will cite these examples. On the same hand, the Prime Minister would appeal to the developed and the rich nations to share technology and funding for the restoration of the ecosystems, and put the political will of, gather the momentum for political will to mitigate the risks of that. We know, there is a lot of rallying around for, say, climate change that has happened. But as yesterday, the Prime Minister at G7 reminded the group of 7 nations that, the $100 billion fund that they had committed to still remains an unfulfilled promise. So the Prime Minister is expected to make an appeal to the developed nations to look at this issue very, very seriously, because both in terms of adoption of technologies to make a sustainable way of life, and stop land degradation, because this is directly affecting livelihoods. And also it could be another model for post-COVID recovery. So I think these are the these are the points which the Prime Minister could touch upon in his speech at his address to the COP15 UNCCD conference today.
So you're telling us that the focus could also be on generating a substantial amount of finance to fight land degradation globally. Besides that, on technology sharing, on sharing of best practices and experiences. Having said that, is the focus also likely to be on explaining the fact that land degradation is not a problem that should be seen in isolation, and that there are associated risks related to climate change, biodiversity loss, and this in turn is increasing the frequency of natural disasters like droughts, even zoonotic diseases, and involuntary migration?
That's right. Land degradation is something which does not just restrict itself to the usage of land. It affects, as you said, biodiversity. It affects climate change. It affects livelihoods of people. It affects spread of infections, especially zoo infections among various species. At the rate extinctions are happening of species, it directly contributes to that. So the Prime Minister would highlight that as was highlighted in the last conference in September 2019, the COP14 held here in Delhi, after which the Delhi Declaration was adopted. You see, Munmun, the plan or the need for mitigating the risks associated with land degradation and desertification have been listed out. Now what is required really is to rally for building a political commitment to solution providing. I think what is lacking in the world as climate change has come into focus, land degradation in that hasn't come into that sort of a sharp focus. So I think the Prime Minister would be trying to make an appeal to both governments and non-governmental organizations, all stakeholders, because this requires participation right up to an individual, say by changing his lifestyle, even living in urban communities. Now, I think the Prime Minister would be essentially making a plea for now putting national disaster resilience plans nationally, asking governments to achieve those targets, and then have a collaborative target for the world to mitigate the risks of land degradation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amritpal, for that. Let's now move on to our developing story. Some weather news now. Continuing its rapid progress since its onset on the 3rd of June, the southwest monsoon by Sunday covered nearly 80% of the geographical area of the country within 10 days. The Met Department has predicted that monsoon has reached the doorstep of Delhi, where it is most likely to arrive during the next 24 to 48 hours. That is 12 days before the normal date of arrival. The monsoon is expected to cover eastern Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Haryana and remaining Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. The monsoon has covered the entire Odisha, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Bihar, Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh and some parts of Haryana, Chandigarh and northern Punjab, covering nearly 80% of the country's geographical area. Several parts of Uttar Pradesh witnessed rain accompanied with thunderstorm and strong winds. State capital Lucknow witnessed heavy rain showers that brought down the temperatures. The IMD said conditions are favorable for further advance of southwest monsoon into most parts of east and west Uttar Pradesh. In West Bengal, a temporary bridge in Kanksa, Shibpur of Bardhaman district washed away due to incessant rainfall in the region, due to which traffic movement was disrupted between Paschim Bardhaman and Birbhum districts. Meanwhile, an orange alert has been sounded in the 7 districts of coastal Karnataka and yellow alert in north interior Karnataka. The Met Department has predicted heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places over coastal and south interior Karnataka and heavy rain over north interior Karnataka today, and widespread rainfall is forecast during the next 3 to 4 days. Agumbe in Shivamoga district and Manki in Uttara Kannada district experienced very heavy rainfall. In the next 48 hours, rain or thunder showers are very likely at most places over coastal Karnataka, south and north interior Karnataka. Fishermen are asked to be cautious as the surface winds are likely to be strong and gusty at times in the coastal areas. In Karnataka, water level in Tunga Dam increased after heavy rainfall. 21 gates of the dam have been opened and water has been released in Gajanur village of Shivamoga. 1500 cusecs of water have been released through crest gates, while 5800 cusecs has been released through a powerhouse. In Kerala, influenced by the low pressure formed in the Bay of Bengal, the southwest monsoon has intensified into the state. Heavy rain lashed most parts of Kerala and many places in Lakshadweep on Sunday. Kottayam recorded the highest rainfall, followed by Kannur. The Met Department has sounded yellow alert across the state except Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam and Palakkad for today. Yellow alert has also been sounded in the entire state for Tuesday. According to the Met Department, another low pressure area could form over North Bay of Bengal by next week. This is likely to further intensify rain over the state next week, as strong winds with speeds ranging from 45 to 65 kilometers per hour are predicted along and off the Kerala and Karnataka coasts and over Lakshadweep till Tuesday. Fishermen are advised not to venture into the sea during the period. Several parts of Rajasthan also received rainfall, leading to a drop in maximum temperature by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. Many districts including Jhalawar, Dausa, Bundi and Kota received pre-monsoon showers on Sunday. Rain is also likely for the next 3 to 4 days in the districts under Bikaner, Jaipur, Bharatpur, Jodhpur, Udaipur and Kota divisions. The Met Department also predicted heavy rain with dust storm on the 15th and 16th of June in districts under Ajmer, Jaipur, Bharatpur and Kota divisions. And our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya now joins us. Tapas, what's the update on the monsoon in Delhi? Is it expected to arrive tomorrow? And what's the reason behind the fast progress of southwest monsoon this time around across the country?
Well, there were a couple of main reasons. The first is the low pressure area that was earlier, prevalent in the country, and as well as the two cyclone that came, cyclone Tate as well as cyclone Yas. So that kind of hastened the progress of monsoon in the both in the peninsular region as well as in the southern part of the country. But having said that, we just had a word with the IMD right now, and according to them, the northwest monsoon, the approach of southwest monsoon in northwest India, especially in Delhi and nearby, has been halted a bit. In fact, has slowed. The progress has slowed. So earlier, when it was expected that in the next 24 hours to 48 hours, the monsoon was expected to reach the national capital. Now we are being told that it will take at least another 3 to 4 days at least before the monsoon actually can make a splash in Delhi. Though it is expected that in the next couple of days there will be rain as well as thunder showers in the national capital, but they cannot be so far be termed as a monsoon, or because as we have been told that the approaching of mid-latitude westerly winds that actually somehow slow down the progress of this particular phenomenon of southwest monsoon, especially in the southwest India and also in Delhi and nearby areas. So that actually kind of is a bit of a dampener, especially for all those people who are really looking forward to having a monsoon in the country. Remember, June 15 was at the IMD World earlier predicted that June 15 was the time when the monsoon will be coming, almost 12 days in advance. Then it was 27 June was earlier the predicted date for monsoon, but now they are saying that it will take another 3 to 4 days, and if that happens, even then it will have another record, because since 2003, if we take a close look at IMD's record, we will find that only 8 times since 2003 that monsoon has reached the national capital in the month of June.
Right, Tapas, also what do we know with regard to prediction of the IMD on distribution of rainfall? Because we saw what happened on Wednesday in Mumbai. There was rainfall to the extent of 222 mm in 12 hours. That's the highest that has happened in June in 24 hours since 1991. And we are also looking at orange alerts and yellow alerts being issued for different parts of the country, especially in the southern parts. So is there anything to watch out for as far as distribution is concerned? Extremely heavy rainfall likely in any parts going forward?
Yes, absolutely, without an utter of doubt that IMD has already predicted. In fact, if we take a close look at IMD's prediction for the long range of monsoon, it has already said that let's say the northwest India as well as the the peninsula, the central peninsula India will receive average rainfall or the normal rainfall that is expected in the southern part of the country as well as in the eastern part of the country, and places which are known to have produce gives a lot of impetus to agriculture. It is expected that above average rainfall activity can be seen. We are still awaiting some more details, although in the southern Karnataka and in parts of Mumbai as well as in Odisha, there has been alert that have been declared, but we are still awaiting details out from the IMD in a detailed manner with, in which areas that the alert has been so far sounded.
Right, Tapas. Thank you for those updates. Let's now move on to National Prime. India report a decline in COVID-19 cases. In the last 24 hours, the country reported 70,421 New Delhi cases, and that's the lowest in 74 days. India's active caseload declines to 9,73,158. The active caseload is below 10 lakh after 66 days. Recoveries continue to outnumber daily new cases for the 32nd consecutive day. In the last 24 hours, 1,19,501 patients recovered in the last 24 hours. So far, 2,81,62,947 patients have recovered from COVID-19 in the country. Recovery rate increased to 95.43%. Weekly positivity rate dropped to less than 5% and is currently at 4.54%. Daily positivity rate is at 4.72%, less than 10% for 21 consecutive days. During the same time, 3,921 deaths were reported due to COVID-19 in the country. India continues to vaccinate its population against COVID-19 under the largest vaccination drive. 25 crore 48 lakh 49,301 people have been vaccinated so far in the country. As many as 14 lakh 99,771 people received their jab on Sunday. As part of the nationwide vaccination drive, Centre has been supporting the states and UTs by providing them COVID vaccines free of cost. More than 26.68 crore vaccine doses have been provided to states and union territories so far through the government, that is a free of cost channel, and through direct state procurement category. Of this, the total consumption including wastages is well over 25 crore doses. Over 1.4 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses are still available with the states and UTs to be administered. Furthermore, over 96,000 vaccine doses are in the pipeline and will be received by the states and UTs within the next 3 days. Meanwhile, testing for COVID-19 continues in the country. As per ICMR, a total of 37 crore 96 lakh 24,626 samples have been tested across the country so far. On Sunday, as many as 14 lakh 92,152 samples were tested. The Ayush Ministry has issued detailed guidelines on how to protect children during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The ministry has advised preventive health care through Ayurvedic medicines and nutraceuticals. Also, it has given detailed suggestions on usage, wearing of masks, doing yoga, opting for teleconsultations and vaccination for parents, among others. Infection is generally mild in children than in most adults, and most of the children with COVID-19 infection may not require any specific treatment. The guidelines said that though the immunity of children is quite strong, but with many mutant virus strains emerging, it is necessary to follow all protocols related to COVID-19 to prevent its effect. As per the guidelines, it has been observed that some Ayurvedic medicines have shown to be effective in prophylaxis against corona infection. The ministry says that children with a history of medical comorbidity like obesity, type 1 diabetes or an immune-compromised position may be at a higher risk of contracting infection. The guideline is a supplement to the COVID-19 appropriate behavior and precautionary measures, and that it should not be taken as a substitute. It has also asked parents to consult a qualified Ayush physician, as all the measures advised have to be actually advised in all children. As the downward trend continues for COVID-19 cases in Delhi, more relaxations have been given to Delhiites as part of reopening the national capital in a phased manner. All the markets now reopen without following the odd-even criteria. Restaurants allowed to open at 50% seating capacity from today. However, no gathering of any form will be allowed in Delhi. Schools, colleges, cinema halls and swimming pools will remain shut until further orders. More relaxations have kicked in beginning today in the national capital as well as in several other places across the country. So markets will be allowed to be open for some restricted hours. As the COVID-19 situation in Maharashtra has improved, the relaxations on COVID curbs announced earlier will remain in place. Restrictions in 21 districts of Maharashtra, including Thane and Pune, are being relaxed from today on the basis of weekly corona positivity rate and availability of beds. However, the existing restrictions will remain in place in Mumbai to avoid congestion. Mumbai Municipal Corporation has taken this decision to avoid risk. Mumbai will continue to remain in the level 3 category of the Maharashtra government's unlock plan to ease restrictions. In view of the city's size and population density, daily arrival of a huge number of commuters from other parts of the Mumbai metropolitan region, and the Met Department's warning of very heavy rainfall in the next few days, the Municipal Corporation has taken this decision. Let's now take a look at Maharashtra corona updates. 10,442 new cases were reported in the state on Sunday. 7,504 patients were discharged in 24 hours. 56,39,271 COVID-19 patients were discharged after full recovery so far. Recovery rate in the state is 95.44%. 483 COVID-19 deaths were reported in the state on Sunday. 59,08,992 infections have been reported so far. In Haryana, the ongoing lockdown has been extended till 5 a.m. on the 21st of June. However, considering a sharp decline in COVID positivity rate and the number of new positive cases, the state government has allowed some relaxations in rules. As part of phased unlock, gyms in Ambala reopened at 50% capacity from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. People going to the gym will have to follow COVID-appropriate behavioral norms, including social distancing. The unlock process is beginning in Himachal Pradesh. From today, shops will now be allowed to open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. All shops and stores will remain closed on weekends to check the spread of the deadly COVID-19 infection. While offices have been allowed to function with 50% staff, intrastate public transport will also resume with 50% occupancy from today. At present, buses will not ply on interstate routes. The state government has also waived off the requirement of a negative RT-PCR test for entering Himachal Pradesh. In Karnataka, partial unlock has started from today. The lockdown in the state that was effective from the 27th of April this year has been lifted with many riders. Lockdown continues in 11 districts where the infection rate has not come down. The relaxation in lockdown measures is in place till 6 a.m. of the 21st of June. However, night curfew will be in place across the state from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. More from our correspondent in Bengaluru, Aisha Khanum.
It's a very good step taken by the government and our air officers. It may definitely it will helpful to publics and then business people. But only the thing is they have to maintain our SWM rules or our COVID rules, like putting up the double masks and face shields, maintaining the social distance and maintaining the hygiene.
The government has kind of relaxed the norms, but I still wouldn't suggest that it's too early for us to venture out.
Yeah.
I would suggest if the government can increase it by another month or so, I think we can see a drastic dip.
Right.
And that is exactly what has to be done, because if you see already the market is packed.
Yeah.
So it is nowhere going to be working for us. People who are very strict, who abide by the rules and regulations, but otherwise it's a strict no-no.
It has to be citizens' responsibility.
Yes, it's whole and soul the citizens.
Today, Karnataka unlocks in over 19 districts, whereas 11 districts will still continue to have strict guidelines imposed during the lockdown. The Karnataka government has observed that the 19 districts which are now qualified for semi-unlock have the positivity rate which the government aimed at. 5T mantra which Karnataka government has been using right from the beginning was useful in bringing down the positivity rate to 6% as of today. So the government now aims to bring this below 5%. The government on one hand is subjecting people who are returning from villages to Bangalore to aggressive testing, and on the other hand the government has also opened up the vaccination drive on a war footing. Over 3 lakh people are vaccinated per day in the state. With cameraman Ganesh, Aisha Khanum, DD India, Bangalore.
And our correspondent Aisha Khanum now joins us from Bengaluru. Aisha, which are the 11 districts where there would be no relaxations?
Kurg, Mandya, Chamarajnagar, Belgaum. These are the districts where the positivity rate is still above 22%. So therefore, as a measure of precaution, the government has said that there will be no relaxation, there will be total lockdown. However, even in these places, the government has given relaxation for people to buy essentials, groceries between 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. But on the other hand, the government says, the government has put the onus on the citizens and said that unless they take care of the protocol guidelines, unless they follow the protocol guidelines, the government will not come forward and relax the lockdown strict guidelines. So the districts which today saw very soft unlock was about 19 districts, and Bangalore urban is one among them. And we see here in Bangalore the roads were busy since morning, and people stepped out in huge numbers, especially in markets, which is actually a dangerous sign. So government is clearly saying that they will unlock in different phases. It will be a graded unlock only, and citizens will have to follow the protocol and the guidelines, wear the mask, social distance, and also stay home. So these are the factors that the government hopes that citizens will follow, and then there will be the next week there will be another phase of unlock. So today's unlock seems to be a success, but still people have crowded markets, and the government is looking and reviewing the situation in all the districts, especially in Bangalore as well. So on one hand, the government has agreed for unlock, but on the other hand, the government is tough on those districts where the positivity rate is still high, and the government says there will be no letdown in the strict guidelines. So today, after 2 p.m., the unlock ends and people will have to return home, and also from 7 p.m. to morning 5 a.m. there will be a night curfew, and even the weekend curfew is also imposed.
Yes.
So government is not in a hurry to unlock the entire city or the state,
right,
because we have seen how Karnataka had witnessed drastic rise in the past 2 months, and the cases went up high, and the positivity rate was 33%. So today the government has managed to bring down that at 6%. So therefore government hopes that this will remain below 6%, below 5%, and then the unlock phase will begin for other sectors as well.
Absolutely. So unlock will be taking place in phases in Karnataka. Thank you so much, Aisha, for that. Let's move on. In Tamil Nadu, a new set of lockdown relaxations kicked in from today as the state government sought to ease restrictions in the wake of daily new COVID cases dipping below the 15,000 mark. Saloons, beauty parlors and spas have reopened in 27 districts of the state, including Chennai, from today. These facilities are now allowed to operate up to 50% of their customer capacity. Tea shops have been allowed to supply takeaway orders, and state-run Tasmac liquor outlets have been permitted to operate in keeping with COVID-19 norms. Government parks have been allowed to open from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Taxis and auto rickshaws have been allowed to operate. The Uttarakhand government today extended COVID-19 induced curfew by 1 more week to 6 a.m. on the 22nd of June. State Minister Subodh Onial said that all guidelines will remain in place, but with some minor changes. In an important relaxation, the residents of Chamoli, Rudraprayag and Uttarkashi have been permitted to visit the Char Dham of Badrinath, Kedarnath and Gangotri, Yamunotri, respectively, only with negative RT-PCR report. Also, revenue courts have been allowed to open with 20 people. Sweet shops can open for 5 days a week. 50 people allowed at both weddings and funerals. Auto rickshaws such as Vikram can fly in fact as well. Also, the previous order by the state government had allowed district magistrates to permit relaxations in rural areas on the basis of the prevailing situation. During the curfew, people were permitted to travel to vaccination centers to get their jabs on production of valid documents and appointment. In Bihar, Chirag Paswan-led Lok Janshakti Party suffered a major jolt when 5 of its MPs formed a separate group under the leadership of Pashupati Kumar Paras. The MPs include cousin of Chirag Paswan, Prince Kumar, Chandan Kumar, Veena Devi and Mehboob Ali Kaisar. They have elected Pashupati Kumar Paras, brother of late Ram Vilas Paswan, as their leader. The group has decided to remove Chirag Paswan as the leader of the parliamentary party in Lok Sabha. Pashupati Kumar Paras has been elected as the leader of the rebellion group. The rebel MPs met Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and handed over a letter to him about new developments in the party. They requested the Speaker to consider Pashupati Kumar Paras as the new leader of LJP in Lok Sabha. LJP is currently a part of NDA at the centre.
सांसद हम लोग हैं, पांचों सांसद की इच्छा थी 6 महीना से कि हमारी पार्टी का अस्तित्व खत्म हो रहा है, ये पार्टी को अब बचा लीजिए। तो मैं पार्टी तोड़ा नहीं हूँ, मैं पार्टी को बचाया हूँ और स्वर्गीय पासवान जी के आत्मा को शांति के लिए मैं जिंदा रहूँगा। लोक जनशक्ति पार्टी देश में जिंदा रहेगी और हम उसको बरकरार रखेंगे। गरीब दलित शोषित जितने भी समाज के लोग, गरीब तबके के लोग हैं, मैं उनकी सेवा करने के लिए 24 घंटा में तैयार हूँ।
And now correspondent Salman Haider joins us from Bihar for more on this. Salman, it's an open rebellion in the Lok Janshakti party. What does it mean for Chirag Paswan and for the party? Do you foresee a fight going forward over which group is the real LJP?
Actually, it is to be decided by the Lok Sabha Speaker and also by the Election Commission. If the breakaway faction will try its best to retain the party's name and symbol also. So let us see what happens in next 2-3 days. And now about this jolt. It all triggered when JDU Lalan Singh met Pashupati Paras, and there is a talk in the air that these MPs may join JDU. Even in Patna, RJD's spokesperson Shakti Singh Yadav said that the JDU has a habit of alluring the smaller parties to its fold. And so these are the things, and BJP says it is their internal matter. But as you know, the last assembly elections in Bihar, LJP had fought on its own in 137 assembly seats, and it got only 1 seat. So there is a discontent in the party cadres, and they want a change of leadership. And somewhat the LJP's President Chirag Paswan's autocratic style is also to be blamed. Yes, Muni.
Right, Salman. Thank you for those updates. Salman Haider reporting on the rift in the LJP against Chirag Paswan's leadership. Well, former Telangana Health Minister E. Rajendra today joined the Bharatiya Janata Party in presence of Union Ministers Dharmendra Pradhan and G. Kishan Reddy at the party headquarters in New Delhi. On Saturday, E. Rajendra had tendered his resignation as Telangana Rashtra Samiti MLA. A few days ago, he relinquished the party membership also. Rajendra also represents Huzurabad constituency. He was one of the senior leaders of the ruling TRS in the state.
हमारी 6 बार की विधायक इटाला राजेंद्र जी, जो तेलंगाना की नई तेलंगाना बनने के बाद वित्त मंत्री, स्वास्थ्य मंत्री ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाने वाले राजेंद्र जी तथा उनकी तमाम सहयोगी रविंद्र रेड्डी जी, तुला उमा जी, रमेश राठौड़ जी, अश्वत्थमा रेड्डी जी, बबैया जी, नलिनी जी, केशव रेड्डी जी, चंद्रशेखर जी तथा अनेक कार्यकर्ता, आज जैसे तरुण जी ने कहा, कोरोना की लिमिटेशंस के कारण हम सभी को यहां सदस्यता नहीं दे पाए, लेकिन सबको हम पार्टी में स्वागत करते हैं।
And in Midday Prime, it's time for news and updates from the world of business. And my colleague Tanvi joins us with the business updates. Yes, Tanvi, go ahead.
Thank you, Munmun. Well, we will first give you data that has come in of the wholesale price-based inflation. WPI-based inflation climbed to 12.9.
So May's WPI inflation numbers have now come. It's risen to 12.94%. Yes, Tanvi.
% in May 2021 from stood at 10.83% in May against 9.01% in April. But inflation in food articles eased marginally to 4.31% in May. Now, to tell you about the stock market news, after initial weakness in morning trade, the domestic stock markets have recovered in the afternoon in somewhat volatile trade on Monday. So the Sensex at the BSE had advanced 70 points or 0.1% to 52,544 in afternoon deals a short while ago. And the Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had gained 16 points or 0.1% to 15,815. In the broader market, the BSE mid-cap index had slipped 0.9%, while the small-cap index was flat. The top index gainers are Divi's Labs, Bajaj Finance, Tata Steel and ONGC with gains of between 1% and 1.5%. Adani Group stocks took a major hit today. So the top index losers are Adani Ports, Coal India, Kotak Mahindra and NTPC with losses of between 1.5% and 11%. Moving on. In other key Asian markets, MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was down 0.2%. Japan's Nikkei 225 index rose 0.7%. Activity was limited with the region's largest markets, those out of China and Hong Kong, being closed for holidays.
Right, Tanvi, that's about it. As far as Business Prime is concerned, we'll move on now to international news. So let's have a look at what's making news across the globe. A day-long summit of NATO heads of state and government will be held in Brussels, Belgium today. The meeting will be chaired by the NATO Secretary General. NATO leaders are arriving at the venue. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg said the meeting comes at a pivotal moment for our alliance and for our collective security and presents a unique opportunity to renew ties. The 30 allies are gathering at the NATO headquarters to agree on reforms for a multipolar post-Cold War world where China's military rise presents a new challenge. One of the main goals of the summit will be to make progress on a new strategic concept known as NATO 2030. Russia, climate change, Afghanistan and new technologies are on the menu of the day-long summit, which will culminate in a special leaders session in the North Atlantic Council chamber. And our correspondent Amrit Pal is joining us. Amrit, what do we expect from the NATO summit? A lot of focus on NATO 2030, and Joe Biden will be participating there fresh out of the G7 summit and before meeting Vladimir Putin. So all in all, what can one expect? Amrit, are you with us? Right, I understand that Amrit is not yet connected with us, and let's move on for the time being. Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet US President Joe Biden. Amrit, are you there with us? Okay. So yes, that meeting is going to take place between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin in Geneva for a summit, and ahead of the meeting in which in fact, is coming amid strained bilateral relations on a wide array of issues. Putin said he expects his summit with the US president will help establish dialogue between both the nations and will restore personal contacts. In an interview released by state television, Putin also said that Russia would be ready to hand over cyber criminals to the US if Washington did the same for Moscow, and the two powers reached an agreement to that effect. Meanwhile, the White House has said that Biden will bring up ransomware cyber attacks emanating from Russia at the upcoming summit. So we'll try and go back to Amrit. Amrit, two developments is what we are talking about. One, the NATO summit, which Joe Biden will be attending fresh after the G7 summit. And all eyes will also be on the summit between Putin and Biden in Geneva. So what can we expect from the two?
There for the meeting with NATO leaders, I think he's going to stress upon updating the language of Article 5 of the NATO Charter. The NATO Charter says that an attack on one partner of the alliance would be considered an attack on all partners and will elicit a response to that. I think the president would want to update that and to include cyber attacks in it, because that is something they feel that is a great threat emanating from Russia. In fact, in his meeting with Baltic leaders, he would bring up the issue of the airspace violations in Belarus by Russian planes. So I think it's very directed both at Russia and also China, but specifically now at Russia, because if you look at when he addressed troops in the United Kingdom, the first stop of his European tour, there he said that any attack on us will be perceived as an attack on our collective identity. So I think the communique which will be signed at the end of this meeting would include that, and it would be primarily directed against Russia, which the United States and other NATO allies also see as provocative steps by Russia and also by China. So I think, and also if you look at the Secretary General's statement saying that we will look at strategy 2030 of a collective resilience. So I think it's aimed, we could expect that at the NATO summit. As far as the meeting with President with Vladimir Putin goes, it's very clear that the United States wants to send a signal to Russia that it needs to make concessions towards the United States, and United States would wouldn't give Russia the free pass that was seen, that President Trump was seen as being was seen as giving to Vladimir Putin. So I think this would be a meeting which the world would be very closely watching, and the US President would be conveying to the Russian side his reservations about what it sees as provocative actions by Russia.
Right. Thank you, Amrit, for those updates. In Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year run as the country's prime minister ended on Sunday, with parliament approving a new government of change led by nationalist Naftali Bennett. Heading into opposition, Netanyahu pledged he would return soon to power. And in a raucous session, the parliament voted confidence for the new administration by a razor-thin 60-59 majority. A former defense minister and a high-tech millionaire, Bennett, was due to be sworn in shortly after the vote. For the first time in Israel's history, his alliance includes a party that represents its 21% Arab minority. Under a coalition deal, Bennett will be replaced as prime minister by centrist Yair Lapid, who's 57 years old, in 2023. Following the win, the new Israeli government held a festive first cabinet meeting. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett presided over and opened his remarks with the She'echiyanu prayer of thanksgiving. Bennett vowed to work to mend the rift in the nation after 2 years of political deadlock. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Naftali Bennett on being sworn in as Israel's new prime minister. The Prime Minister in a tweet said that he looked forward to meeting Prime Minister Bennett and deepening the country's strategic partnership as they celebrate 30 years of the upgradation of diplomatic ties next year. Prime Minister Modi also conveyed his profound gratitude to Benjamin Netanyahu for his leadership and personal attention to India-Israel strategic partnership. Netanyahu's tenure as Israel's Prime Minister ended on Sunday. The trial of ousted Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi will hear its first testimony in a junta court today, more than 4 months after a military coup. The junta has brought an eclectic raft of charges against the Nobel laureate, from illegally accepting 11 kilograms of gold to breaking a colonial-era secrecy law. Near-daily protests have rocked Myanmar since the general's push removed her government in February, ending a 10-year experiment with democracy. The mass uprising has been met with a brutal military crackdown that has killed more than 850 people, according to a local monitoring group. And it's time now for all the sports action. My colleague Suchitra joins us with Sports Prime.
First man in 52 years to win all 4 majors twice when he came from 2 sets down to beat Stefanos Tsitsipas in a gripping French Open final on Sunday. The world number 1 triumphed 6-7, 2-6, 6-3, 6-2, 6-4 over the Greek 22-year-old who was playing in his first Grand Slam final. Djokovic is now just 1 major away from equaling the all-time record of 20 jointly held by Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. It was the second French Open crown for Djokovic after his 2016 victory and adds to his 9 Australian Opens, 5 Wimbledon titles and 3 at the US Open. Djokovic is the first man since Rod Laver in 1969 to win all 4 slams on multiple occasions and just the 3rd in history. Some football action now. England started their Euro 2020 campaign on a positive note with a 1-0 win over Croatia on Sunday. Raheem Sterling scored the lone goal of the match to seal the game for the Three Lions at Wembley Stadium. Austria sealed a 3-1 victory over major tournament debutants North Macedonia in their Group C opener at Euro 2020 on Sunday. This was Austria's first ever European Championship win. Netherlands and Ukraine played out one of the best matches in Euro 2020 with the Dutch making a winning return in a major tournament by beating the visitors 3-2 in Amsterdam on Sunday. Netherlands were playing in their first major soccer tournament in 7 years. Last time they played in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil when they reached the semi-finals. And time for Olympic countdown story. One of the major hopes for India at the Tokyo Olympic is shooter Manu Bhaker. At 19, she is set to represent the Indian shooting contingent across 3 events, the most for any Indian shooter at Tokyo Olympics. So how did Bhaker start her journey and what are her achievements thus far? Let's have a look at her career.
At 14, she picked up a gun for the first time. At 16, she had become the undisputed Indian #1 in the 10-meter air pistol event, broken multiple national records, beaten multiple Olympic medalists, won a Commonwealth Games gold, and also became the youngest Indian to win gold at the Shooting World Cup.
The Olympic preparations are going smooth. After this long time of the quarantine period or the lockdown period, everybody is working hard, so am I. I'm working very hard and hopefully the things will turn out positive. We'll get a positive response.
2017, Manu Bhaker's meteoric rise. Manu Bhaker's very first whiff of international success came at the 2017 Asian Junior Championships, where she had won a silver medal. And that was just the beginning. The same year saw Manu Bhaker bagging a phenomenal 9 medals at the National Games in Kerala, highlighted by breaking a record set by veteran World Cup medalist Hina Sidhu with a 242.3-point haul. 2018, success in the World Cup. The 2018 Shooting World Cup in Mexico announced Manu on the global stage. There was no stopping the Haryana youngster. She kept breaking the big guns in 2018. Her competition in ISSF Mexico World Cup was against local favourite Alejandra Zavala in the women's 10-meter air pistol category after Manu Bhaker had qualified for the finals quite comprehensively. The tournament saw the Indian shooting sensation narrowly edging out the two-time champion by an incredibly close margin of 0.4, thus becoming the youngest Indian to win a gold medal at the ISSF World Cup. 2018, a first at the Youth Olympics. At the 2018 Youth Olympics in Buenos Aires, Manu Bhaker was not only the first shooter but the first female athlete from India ever to win a gold medal at the event.
TOPS and KELO India provide us a wide platform so that we can perform and to build ourselves. They help and assist us in every way, every possible way, may it be financial or technical support or providing the range, training, camps and everything is being managed by them, and I'm so thankful to TOPS and KELO India for being a mental as well as financial and technical support to me and many athletes.
Manu was getting sharper as the years progressed, thereby proving again that age was just a number for the teenage sensation. 2019, gold at the Asian Championships. The proof of Manu Bhaker's phenomenal talent was on display in 2019 when, despite not being in top form, she managed to win a gold at the 14th Asian Championship as well as in the Air Pistol ISSF World Cup final in Putian in China. 2019 Tokyo Olympic quota. The icing on the cake was, however, qualifying for the Tokyo Olympics in the 10-meter pistol event after finishing fourth at the ISSF Munich World Cup in May 2019. Still only a teenager, Manu Bhaker can aim high as she polishes her skills going forward. And if the cluster of medals she has earned so early in her career is anything to go by, she could be on course to make her country proud. Once again, this time on the biggest stage of all, the Olympic Games. Sports Desk, DD India.
So those were some sports updates. Back to you, Monsoon.
Thanks, Suchitra, for that. And with that, we come to the close of this edition of Midday Prime. Do remember to keep your masks on whenever you venture out and even at home when you have people around. Thanks for watching.